Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week of Living a Full Life. I am Dr. Enrico Dolcecore. I'll be your host. This week, we are continuing on with raising healthy children. This has been a lot of fun going through the neurodevelopmental understanding of childhood development because it makes us better parents and mentors for our kids. Whether you have kids or don't, you're an influence to children everywhere because you're an adult. So understanding this stuff only empowers us to be better. If you haven't been keeping up, 2 podcasts ago, we started this series on birth and those developmental years. And then the last podcast was going into school age children. And now we're making our way through middle school. You're probably getting a little bit of upset stomach thinking about when you went through middle school and all the trials and tribulations that come with that. But with childhood development, this is important as well. You guys are going to probably say, well, Enrico, when does this importance end? And the age is actually 25 years old. The human brain develops cognitively and behaviorally and doesn't fulfill that full development until the age of 25, ladies and gentlemen. That's where neuroscience is right now. And we know this because of impulsive behavior. How many of you have 20-year-olds? Yeah, you put that marshmallow on the table and tell them, don't eat that. Your 20-year-old son or daughter will eat the marshmallow. They won't have any self-control. Just like how when they fixate on taking the car out and you said, no, do not take the car out after 10 p.m., and they're fixated on this, they will still do it. They will still do it. So we need to understand this up until 25. So how long is this series going to go? 25. I want you to be the best parents in the world. But we're talking about middle school kids right now. So that's around 10 years of age. We ended the last podcast at about 8 years old, and we got to the point of academic development. That's when it starts. The academic part of the brain of learning, memorization, and repetition comes at about 8 years of age. So the whole point, I'll just catch you all up, is be gentle with our kids with academia until about 8 years old. Very gentle. Whatever happens, happens. How they learn will be how they learn. And we just want to facilitate growth. That's it. And you're winning. You're winning. You're winning. You're winning. After 8, we can start talking about academia and how we should memorize and how we can improve and zone in on those skills so that we can be testable and we can do well on tests. As much as we disagree with testing, many parents do. I mean, we didn't like being tested. We don't like the program of being tested. It's okay. It's just the way it is. It's the only way we can evaluate learning in an academic setting. It's really the only way that we've created. There's other ways, but that's not going to change anytime soon. So academia is what it is. So we need to understand what is happening with our children at this time in their life. So 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, around those ages. So we're going to call this one the middle school podcast. Cognitive development at this point in middle school children, they just continue to develop their thinking skills. Okay. They're including problem solving, reasoning, and decision making. And that's what all the classes are made up. Even the English language is being taught in this way of how do you problem solve for proper verbs, nouns, punctuation. That's all happening at this time. And good English teachers will teach on why the language is the way it is, rather than just basically how to write or how to read. They are also able to think more abstract and understand complex concepts. It's amazing how young our kids do understand concept. I haven't. My oldest is turning 9, and it blows my mind. They're still my little kid, and then in other times it's like you're like a full-grown adult, like on their understanding level. But because we understand neurodevelopment, I do. I know they're not an adult, and I know their understanding level isn't there. So you have to be gentle with all that. Language development. This is a huge upward curve as far as language understanding. Unlike your 1 to 2-year-old who starts babbling and talking, and they won't stop. That is probably the biggest curve we go through, is just being able to relay all that download that we were doing. But this is probably the second biggest leap in human development as far as language development is at this time. They're able to use more complex vocabulary, grammar, and they're correcting themselves by saying octopi instead of octopuses and cacti. Instead, they're starting to understand the language better. Social emotional development. Oh boy. This is where everything kind of goes through the roof as far as social emotional development. Now, social concepts matter. They absolutely matter. Now you'll see your fourth grader coming home, fifth grader coming home upset because of something socially that happened for the first time. And as a parent, you're like, oh my word. But that's the emotional connection that they're developing. They're starting to self-understand and they're connecting that to society, which is such a baffling thing because we've constructed society to be this weird thing, when really all we should be doing is playing in the meadows and chasing each other and having fun and climbing trees. But what we've done is we've created this social concept of sitting in chairs and being proper and manners and all these things that are just not natural. And they're going through that learning phase to get there, to understand how that works. So we have to understand we're squeezing our kids into these molds, and it's super tough. But when you understand it, you can help facilitate it and you can help them grow from there. So that's the empowerment that we're trying to talk about. They're starting to develop their own sense of identity and they're becoming more independent. You probably didn't need me to tell you that. You know that's happening. They are becoming more aware of their peers and their social relationships. That's really the social emotional development. And all you need to know is that if you truly understand that concept, you're going to let them kind of run free with that and then rein them in on how you experienced your social development during those times. You don't have to go back to when you were 8 years old. It might be difficult for you to remember when you were 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, but you can maybe relate back to what you did in middle school when you had a misunderstanding with one of your friends or a classmate and how you may have done a good job or maybe you didn't do a good job at that time. That can be a huge learning experience for your children. Listen, when I was 11, I ended up throwing an elbow at Scott. Like I don't know what happened. I got upset and I just elbowed him. His nose started to bleed. That's a horrible story. But say, listen, I got in so much trouble. I felt horrible. I had to apologize to Scott and his mom. And I'm making up this story. And it really hurt me for a while and I was embarrassed, and then that can be a huge teaching. I regret talking about violence, but anyways, there you go. It's an example of maybe something that could be a learnable experience. Motor development. Middle school children are still growing and developing physically. Some of them, especially at that 10, 11, 12, 13, boys and girls, puberty. Yeah, I said it. We're starting to go through that hormonal cascade as well. Cannot ignore that. Before the age of 10, I definitely want you as a parent to be aware that that is not normal. I don't care what you're reading on Google. I don't care what pediatricians are accepting as normal today. It is absolutely not normal for an 8-year-old to start their cycle. We have issues there of toxicity. Please be aware of this. Hair can maybe start to grow around this time or darken, but the pubic development, pubic hair development and all that, I mean, this should be happening later. We have a hormonal cascade that's starting way too early because of things that have already been done, but we have a toxicity issue. Estradiols, estrogen, it should not be happening at that young. If it's happening, definitely seek pediatric care, talk to an endocrinologist, get some care there for that. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. You just need to be aware of it and understand that is too early for things to go through and make sure that we stay on top of it because it can lead to things like polycystic ovary syndrome. It can lead to testosterone issues for boys later on. So the early development of this is an issue. So that was an aside. But that's part of this development stage is they are becoming more coordinated, agile, and they're able to participate in more challenging physical activities. Here we go. Now athleticism, now athletics become something to strive, to set goals for, to maybe do practices, to zone in on skills. I remember growing up in Canada at that 8, 9, 10-year-old. Now we're doing pylon drills. We're skating fast back side to side. We are learning motor function and high agility at this age. You don't put your 4-year-olds through pylon development and skating back and forth as fast as you can. or timing any of this. You may do it for fun with the 4-year-old, see how fast they can go and kind of pick the speedsters out of the crowd, but you're not putting any emphasis on this or pressure on them at that young of an age. But at this point, 9, 10, 11 years old, yes, now we start measuring this stuff. If you want to do a cool little side project, look at the physical education curriculum from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s in the United States, and even in Canada. Go look at this. Look what they did. You'll see these schools in metro areas, downtown metro areas, with these playgrounds that were built in the 60s. They're still there. They just repaint them. They're the metal bars, the monkey bars. That was it. So physical education was either a rope dangling from the ceiling or the monkey bars outside. And we would go outside and we would count how many chin-ups you could do or how fast you could climb the rope. It wasn't about getting to the top. Everyone had to get to the top of the rope and everyone had to do chin-ups. It was just, you got an A if you could do 25 or more chin-ups. You got a B if you did 20. And if you could do less than 10, you failed. Like that. That's where, imagine doing that today. Oh my gosh. We'd have riots, parents burning down places. But that is agility. That is strength. That is physical education. And they were developing this at that time. And people were lean in the 60s. And we had all these. Okay. So anyway, so you as a parent can empower that, knowing that, hey, at this time we can teach them, hey, doing push-ups, doing pull-ups, doing push-ups, climbing trees, climbing ropes are great agility and brain development for our kids at this time. It keeps them strong, keeps them agile, and it may influence enjoyment in doing this type of stuff. And then they can get into Ninja Warrior and all this other kind of fun stuff that, or gymnastics, whatever it may be. You can facilitate new motor skills with our children. So some specific neurodevelopmental milestones for children at this age are, we want to make sure they're able to solve problems that require multiple steps. You'll see this through their homework that they bring home, especially in mathematics. They're into multiplication, division, speed testing, and they're doing multiple steps to get to the answer. Same thing with problem solving for English. You'll see this in the curriculums that's there. Understand and apply abstract concepts such as time, money, and fractions. Again, think critically and creatively. So now we're asking them to write a sentence as an answer rather than circling a multiple choice question like they did in 3rd grade. Now they're essays. They may be having to write essays. 6th, 7th grade, you're writing full essays on the book reports that we're reading. We're using language effectively to express themselves. We're understanding and managing their own emotions, being able to talk about this. So if you go back to the last podcast, if we facilitate these openness and safety nets in our homes to be emotionally intelligent and to feel safe to talk, you're going to get a better middle school age kids that form and maintain healthy relationships with peers and adults because of their understanding to manage their emotions. Pretty cool. That's stuff fascinates me up to today. Very cool stuff on how we can neuroplasticity, how the brain is so neuroplastic that we can just sit there and mold it. You can manipulate it. Don't tell me, don't think I'm trying to manipulate the brain. We're trying to facilitate and make it so neuroplastic that it is so adaptable that you're going to reap so many rewards from being emotionally intelligent, physically intelligent, even IQ or academically intelligent. That's fine. I'm talking about mental health intelligence and emotional intelligence and how far that can go for society, folks, not just your children, how far that can ripple the effects. And they form and maintain healthy relationships with peers, participate in physical activities that are challenging but safe. We still want to play the safe card in middle school because as their agility goes up and as their bravery goes up with their bodies to try, and they want to test their bodies. They want to run as fast as they can. They want to try and get to the top of the rope as fast as they can. They want to do this. It's like a new driver. They're probably highly susceptible to getting into an accident. That's really the answer to that, is being safe with this. Is that if they're doing it, make sure it's in a gymnasium, safe place with mats. So if they do fall, they're not breaking arms. They're not severely hurting themselves. Your kids are going to get hurt. You know this as a parent. They're going to get hurt, but you can only do so much. But make sure it's just a safe environment for that. And then for you as a parent, as we go through this age, it's a tough one. I'm not there yet, so I'm no professional with my children on this, but I was in middle school and I was a brat. I was a good kid, but that emotional time in there and coming from a home that Hmm, I give them a C, if I had to give them a grade for emotional intelligence. For love and happiness and family time, and I give them an A for sure. My family did a great job. My parents are still married. I'm lucky and I'm blessed to have them. But when it comes to emotional, it was uncomfortable to communicate emotions. It was for everyone. It was uncomfortable for my parents. It was uncomfortable for me to try and bring it out. And that's the only thing I wish that if I had, I would be much more emotionally intelligent now and wouldn't have to put in so much work now that I do as an adult and as a parent to do that. So if anyone else feels like me, then we're in the same boat together. So that's okay. But and then these are the things you learn and hopefully don't pass down to your kids, but make it better for your kids. So provide them with opportunities to learn and explore. Always have opportunities. My 8-year-old just wrote me my first note. It was like a whole page. She's like, it took me 3 days to write that, Dad. And there was some tidbits in there. There's some emotional tidbits in there. She's telling me how much of a rough time third grade has been. Just we're only a couple weeks into school, but I showed my wife. I'm like, and she's like, "Wow!" So I wrote back, and she made a mailbox out of paper. She's like, "I get a mailbox," and so I put it. She was so excited to get that back. And she said, "Thanks for the note, Dad. That was super nice. Great. Did you want to talk about third grade and how tough it is?" No, but I'll write you if I do. And I was like, "Okay, sweetheart." Just opening up that line of communication and making it safe. Super win. So I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for that. Encourage them to ask questions and think critically. Critically is tough. Critical thinking, I remember, and I look back at this and I thought I was good at it in school, but critical thinking is actually a skill that you have to develop. It's not just given to you. Critical thinking is diving a little bit deeper when we do want to come to a solution. So it's not as easy as just trying to problem solve because today I just naturally problem solve, but the answers that I come up with are not the most efficient. They're just the quickest and the most logical answers. So logic comes to me quickly, but the critical thinking takes an extra bit of time. So I have to be careful. I have to just think a little bit longer to get to a deeper level of thinking. That's what critical thinking is a deeper level of logic. And that takes time to develop. Now, I wish I had more for you on that. I don't. Let's talk to like a cognitive psychologist. That would be a good person to have on the podcast. Help them develop their problem solving skills, and that's just working with them on problem solving, just helping them kind of go through it, think how they think. They really don't know how to problem solve. Through elementary school, they've learned like simple problems, but getting them through critical thinking and problem solving skills is something you can assist with. It doesn't have to be through homework. It can be through emotional intelligence, like how to problem solve emotionally through social settings. Talk to them about their emotions and help them develop healthy coping mechanisms. I can't stress this enough. If people as adults had better coping mechanisms, we would have less addiction, less problems, healthier communities, healthier villages, stronger neighborhoods. It's just the ripple effect is just so much bigger when children have healthy coping mechanisms. And I understand some people just don't have the upbringing, and there's reasons for how we end up. But if you're in a healthy home and you've got this time to give to your children, encourage this. These are the things that matter in life: is those healthy mechanisms to understand that fear, anger, happiness, overzealous joy, exhalation, like all these swings from elated to complete, almost depressed. We can swing between these emotions, but if we understand how to cope with them, we'll stay more neutral in our emotional intelligence, which is great. If you should look into Dr. John Demartini. He's written books on meditation, psychology, chiropractic, a lot of cool stuff. And I've been to a couple of his seminars, and it's stuck with me since. And he described love as not really an emotion. Love is an entity within the body, within our minds. Love is neither positive nor negative, but it is the nucleus to all emotion. So it's the nucleus. It doesn't have a positive or negative. You can love someone that you hate, right? if you've had a toxic relationship with a parent or whatever, or a family member, it's usually close to home. You hate their guts, but there's love. It's crazy how that works. Or you can love someone so much, right? You can be so elated with them and so excited to be with them. And those are all these positive emotions that come out. But love is the nucleus. Love is neither positive nor negative. And then the further away we get away from this love, like fantasy, all the way, we're so elated and our heads are in the clouds because we're so elated, and we become fanatical. It's called, where we're in fantasy. This is like dividing, and then we can get so depressed and so angry. We can be so diverse. This is where things like schizophrenia and bipolar syndrome start to come in, because we're so away from the nucleus. We get so far away from the center love. And it was really cool. Look him up. You'll love. I think he does a podcast. Very cool stuff. Look him up. That was such a great thing for me. Changed my life. Support their social and emotional development by helping them build positive relationships with peers and adults. I think I'm starting to repeat myself now on these last two podcasts. It's your job. It's your job. It's your job to support their social emotional development. Yours, no one else's, not their teachers, not their peers. You don't like what your kids listen to at school and bring home. It's your job. Yes, you cannot control what the other kids say. And the other kids are not bad. The other kids have older siblings. That's the issue. I've learned that in second grade. I was like, Ellie, where did you get that from? Like, what's that from? Oh, from this person. I'm like, but that's a good kid. Like, how do they know? And then my wife right away, they got 3 older brothers. I'm like, that answers all my questions. So it's passed down, right? So it's okay. You can't control that stuff, but you can definitely talk to them about their social emotional development. And then lastly, encourage them to participate in physical activities during this age. It is like a fork in the road at 10 years of age, whether you either encourage them to be active or they become lazy. Unfortunately, that's the only word I got for you today. And if they go down the lazy path where there is no work ethic physically, you are setting them up for a lifelong relationship with exercise to be negative. And unfortunately, that leads to a lot of different conditions and degeneration and things that happen there. We know that the active community avoids so much inflammatory diseases that it's just so important. So encourage them, facilitate whatever they love. If it's dance, it's dance. If it's soccer, it's soccer. If it's running, it's running. If it's track, it's track. Whatever they enjoy to do, it's fine. I remember karate for me, getting up to like almost a black belt and then being like, I don't like karate anymore. My parents would get upset. Like, we invested all this time and money for you to, and you're quitting now. I'm like, I don't like it. What do you want to do? Hockey. Okay, let's do it. They always said, okay, hockey. And then hockey, baseball and hockey at the same time. So all this stuff, but they always said, okay, because they understood the importance of movement and being sports and social development as well. They understood that stuff, and being active was part of our value system in our family too. Be active, definitely don't sit around. You got to keep these kids busy, is what my parents always used to say. Keep them busy, they stay out of trouble. But it's bigger than that. Keeping them busy and keeping them moving sets them up for such positive affirmation and positive self-awareness into their adult life. What a cool podcast these are turning into. I love this stuff. And it's because we're really good at it, and we help families every single day. So it's really cool stuff. If you have any more ideas about this, send it our way. Like us, review us, share our podcast on your social media so that more people can listen to this. I thought I was going to keep it hyper local, but these are topics that can help anyone around the world. So share this stuff with friends and family, get it out there, and you stay well, you stay healthy. And remember, you're doing a fantastic job raising the next generation. Keep it going. Take care. God bless.